something I was thinking about was just when we were talking earlier, about black men, anxiety, or the black community and anxiety, mental illness. It's just, we don't know anything about it, but how's it portrayed just in general? So, social media, where have any of you guys seen in movies or social media, or, I don't know, documentaries where you think, oh, that's a positive way that black mental health is being portrayed well?
I think that's the problem.
It's just it's not there.
Yeah. I don't think black men, I should say, I don't think we portray or we try to show any sign of mental illness, even when we're going through a lot within our lives. I don't know what it is. I think it's just a stigma of you sort of keep it to yourself.
And also, if you're seen as showing any side that's vulnerable, I can take advantage of you.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that dog eat dog, where you show a gentle side, you show, oh, this upset me. Oh, it did? And often you almost have like that self-given fear that someone's going to try to take advantage of that, so you don't want to seem weak to your boy.
But a lot of survival.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It definitely, it's all intertwined. So it's like, you don't want to be seen as weak. It's not portrayed anywhere where it's like, okay, it's actually normal to, be sad about that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So you have all of those things sort of mixing in with the pot, and it's just like, well, no, you don't want to talk about it, because then you seem weak.
Yeah. And you're paranoid about it. You're always on edge. Like when it's an emotional vulnerability, I feel like I'm not even going there, because I just don't know you guys. Even if we've been friends for a while, I just don't know how it's going to be portrayed. And I think sometimes, especially when growing up, you've got things that reinforce that belief. Like you tell your friends, like, actually, I'm being a bit stressed out. Like, hey man, don't be a girl. Like someone will tell you something, then you hear it often enough that you're like, okay, I'll take that back into my box. It's not coming out. Even things amongst your friends. So you grow up with them and you just naturally won't tell people things. And then also we naturally don't even recognize it in other people. Someone could have the exact same thing you're going through, and you might just think, this looks familiar, but what comes out of your mouth is completely going to be different from what you might really want to tell the person.
I think in society on the whole mental health piece it's a tragedy, because in some cultures they have a piece in their natural communication that they're kind of looking after each other. That's a priority. In society as a whole, in the way I've experienced it, mental health really isn't even on the table. It's always underfunded. It's not talked about, even in any community. It's just a very taboo subject. And then the extreme of that in the black community is that it's almost expected. It's almost like a default that we're in survival mode. And what's mental health? Like, really? You're gonna get people that are obviously, educated and who've been able to overcome a lot of the struggles, who can have that conversation. But otherwise, people are just trying to survive in black community as a whole. So it's not definitely being promoted at all.
Yeah, definitely. But this is a good start. Just us getting together and just talking about this, about our struggles with anxiety, mental health. Just whatever we're saying right now is a big thing on its own already.
Oh, of course. This is happening in lots of places simultaneously around the world, but it's not being promoted.
But do you think there's a deeper cultural issue to this? Now, let me give a typical example. Growing up in Nigeria, right? I think just in African culture generally, we have a culture about education is everything in Africa. Honestly, education is everything. So if you're not progressing in your education, naturally, I think parents, family, they tend to sort of become closer or pay more attention to the kids that are doing really well academically, because why, they could be the future of the family, or they could say, oh, this is the bride, this is our way out, for us to make it. So it's so you can sort of see where I'm coming from. And then the ones that
the ones who do make it are the most educated. Like we really go through schools.
Exactly.
You find yourself in another country.
You'll find there's a big time correlation on that. Basically in Africa, there's a comedian called Gina Yashiri, and she said growing up in Africa, or growing up in Nigeria specifically, you only have four professions. You're either a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, or a disgrace to the family.
That is true. That is true. Those are the only options. I really believe that.
And in many ways, your parents are like, you're going to be the doctor.
Yes.
You're going to be the lawyer. We have to pray. That's just. But then this is our real challenge, real issues that we should be addressing, and I feel like our generation can actually change that. I feel like it's not because our parents doing it in the wrong way, just the way they know growing up. It's just the environment they.
That's
Not
funny
aware of
though.
current options.
It's funny because you can also be the black sheep even if you're doing well. You know, you can also be torn down even if you're doing well. If you're doing well at school, if you're succeeding well in life, if you're accumulating wealth, if you're getting attention in the media, you can also be torn down. You know, we live in a culture of, you know, putting people up on pedestals and you're higher than God, and we're always playing God or whatever it means to you, Buddha, Allah, whatever it is, and then we'll tear you down.
That's the whole paradox of success as well.
That's
Look
right.
at Charlemagne, so successful, and when people go out of their way to try to tear him down.
What I will say with the similarities, as you guys were saying, like in Africa and the culture and how it's like if you're not excelling, you know, academically, you're a waste. In the States, that's where I guess the difference in culture would be. It's very much like a crab's in a barrel. Don't know if you've heard the expression, but essentially if you're trying to get a crab out of a barrel, all of the other crabs, not knowing that crab's destination, will naturally try to pull it back in like, hey, where are you going? So as you climb up those bits of success, you have your other brothers and sisters around you like, well, we're not experiencing that. Where are you going? And as he did say in the books, like when you go back, you know, you're, even now, like if I went back to, you know, the projects in Manhattan, they would think somehow I've made it, literally because I'm living in a different country.
And do you feel pressure to dumb yourself down or to be at that?
Not necessarily dumb myself down, but there's no desire to go back.
Exactly.
Just knowing that essentially those obstacles await.
Yeah, exactly. What are you going to go back to? It's not something that's aspirational. Why do you want to live in the projects?
And because it's just
You know, why do you want to live in a slum? Why do you want to live in a fabricated ghetto? It's not like a destination. Like, let's go to Bahamas. It was created to keep you down. Wow.
Not even just within the culture, even think of the general narrative. Like, let's say in the last year or two, how many black men or women do you know have gone to therapy, sought help for mental health issues, and come out okay?
There might be lots, but whether you know about it or not, it's not going to be necessarily. You've got to look at statistics, but who you know personally, that's a different thing.
Okay, that's
maybe
true.
because some people aren't going to tell you that they're in therapy because there's still the stigma attached to it, and there's shame surrounding it. And did you go voluntarily, or were you taken off the streets?
So I guess maybe I should
It's a
rephrase
very
it to be like
different
people
thing.
you see who you think definitely could. I think all of us could recognize someone who you think, okay, this guy could probably benefit from talking to someone, and you might actually mention it to them, but it's such a hard sell because even when you're saying it.
But that's actually most people I meet. That's not just this guy. It doesn't happen to be a black guy. It's actually most people I meet could benefit from going into
I
therapy.
think the way I see it is like, it's therapy is something that you should actually continue to do. Like just like you go to gym, you don't just go to gym once and then I'm fine. Like for the rest, it's a continuous thing. Right.
I agree.
Like it's something that's it's for everybody really. Like you yourself as a psychiatrist, you have to go for therapy as well, right?
So
And
Things don't need to be bad. It's a therapeutic process. You go and have a massage.
Exactly.
You go for a walk.
And I think I think that's the stigma, because you assume, you know, when someone says, I recommend maybe you should go see someone, you go, oh, things must be very bad.
actually, it reminds me of what you guys said earlier, because we were talking about how adverse growing up with the family, as you're African American, maybe intergenerational trauma stuff, the police shootings, you know, South Africa apartheid. When I start thinking that, like, oh crap, if these guys say they're going to therapy, it's justified. When I went to therapy, even though it was part of my training, I remember lots of things were like, crap, I wish I'd gone this earlier, because I didn't have a lot of these big things. So in my mind, I thought, even though I might have issues, come on, this guy has to go in front of the line for, you know, it's like this. I'm not going there, even though I might even have more access to it. I actually work in the industry of mental health. I'm still thinking, up until later in my training, I was still thinking, nah, not me. He should go first. No, he's next. I didn't have.
So as if like he has to have a big problem to go.
Yeah. Oh, that's the assumption. That's the assumption. It doesn't have to be big.
It doesn't have to be, and it's so beneficial because if you do have a big problem and you've been seeing this person for the past 3-4 years, it's so much easier to grieve and to get proper help. As well. It's a very important thing that to reduce that stigma. It's a part of it is also just removing this idea that I have to go to see a shrink because my life is falling apart.
So the prevention piece is
The
better
prevention
than-
piece
better
is
and easier than the cure.
It's easier than the cure.
Way more easy.
Yeah. Just like with anything, like with
That's what I'm saying. I would argue that though, because if you've been giving yourself the same script, your family, your friends, society that's around you has been giving you the same script, it's much harder to break that. So regardless of what the significant issue is, you're going to want to keep that inside more so than, as you were saying, actually just being taught or speaking the language of this is acceptable earlier in the piece. Because if I've been telling myself for, let's just say I had, like, let's take it slightly away from mental health, let's say I had an eating disorder. And I'm just telling myself every time I'm sad, I'm gonna eat a cupcake. And everyone's around you like, oh, you're not feeling well, let's go down and get a donut.
Yeah.
And that's what you're essentially fed and what you're feeding yourself. Well, then by the time I'm 350 kilos, it's like, I'm just, I'm gonna keep doing it. That's what I've known. So with the mental health, it's like, well, if you're told, suck it up. If you're told, focus on study. If you're told, look, if you make it out and get successful, people aren't gonna look at you the same. If you're fed all that stuff continuously, well then I think that that's actually then harder to go and seek help.
So how do you break the cycle? Because there's lots of stuff that can go round and round in circles around.
By making it more commonplace.
Making it
Yeah,
more commonplace.
exactly.
So what do we do? Because usually if that's not something that's a government initiative, and you got to wait for funding to put it out there and do a promotion and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
What do people do? What's the
Well, then-
grassroots thing that can happen?